This is CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Good evening. Welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. We're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio. At the outset, we've got some great news. The Indian men's hockey team has won the bronze medal in the Olympic Games. They have beaten Spain 2-1. It was a fitting finale, a farewell match for Srijesh, who has, of course, led Team India to glory in the past as well. Remember, India had won the bronze 4 years ago in the Tokyo Olympics as well. So they were, in the sense, defending their bronze medal. And today, they came back from behind. They were 1 goal behind to Spain, and they came back from behind to win 2-1. Right after that stupendous victory, Prime Minister Modi spoke with the victorious Indian team. Listen in to a short excerpt of that conversation, and then we'll start off the show.
सर ये हरमन के पास था
सर नमस्कार नमस्कार सर नहीं शुक्रिया सर थैंक यू सर थैंक यू जी सर
मैं आपको और पूरी टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई
शुक्रिया सर थैंक यू
भारत का नाम रोशन किया आपने और आपको याद होगा मैंने टोक्यो में कहा था आपको
जी सर
कि आपने पराजय की पूरी श्रृंखला को तोड़ा है
जी सर
और अब आपके नेतृत्व में और आपकी पूरी टीम के प्रयासों से इस बार भी हमने प्रगति की है और मुझे पक्का विश्वास है कि अब हॉकी क्योंकि वो पुराना जो स्वर्णिम काल था वो फिर से आप लोग वापस लेके आएंगे तो मुझे पक्का विश्वास हो गया है
जी बिल्कुल सर बिल्कुल लेके आएंगे सर थैंक यू सर
हमारे श्रीजे से
जी सर
घोषित कर दी है
जी साथ में ही सर कर लीजिए सर
हेलो सर
श्रीजे है
यस सर श्रीजेश बात कर रहा हूँ सर
कैसे हो भैया
एकदम एकदम बढ़िया सर कंग्रेचुलेशन सर
बधाई हो आपको
थैंक यू सर थैंक यू
आपकी कमाल आपने निवृत्ति घोषित कर दी आखिरी में
यस सर
लेकिन आपको नई टीम तैयार करनी होगी भैया
यस सर
देखिए मैं एक बार तो आज जरूर कहना चाहूंगा 10 खिलाड़ियों के साथ ब्रिटेन की लड़ाई आपकी मुझे लगता है हिंदुस्तान का हॉकी को समझने वाला हर बच्चा इसको हमेशा याद रखेगा
थैंक यू सर
और इसको एक उदाहरण के रूप में माना जाएगा और मैं मानता हूं कि दुनिया में भी हॉकी की चर्चा होगी तो ये आपकी क्वार्टर फाइनल के मैच का तो जरूर जिक्र आएगा
थैंक यू सर
थैंक यू सर
और मैं सच बता दूं अच्छा टीम स्पिरिट भी दिखाई दिया और आपने बिल्कुल जमकर के और मैं देखा कि एक बार हारने के बाद थोड़ा मोरल डाउन हो जाता है लेकिन आपने 24 घंटे में फिर से अपने आप को रिकवर करके पूरी ताकत से निकल पड़े आप लोग
यस सर
जी सर
देखिए देश को बड़ा गर्व हो रहा है आप लोगों पर और मेरी तरफ से बहुत बहुत बधाई है सबको
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर
सबकी तबीयत तो ठीक है ना कोई इंजरी नहीं हुई ना
नहीं सर सब एकदम बढ़िया सर सब लोग इधर आपको सुन रहे सर सब खुश है सब आपका कॉल के इंतजार में था सर
मैं सबको मेरी तरफ से बहुत बहुत बधाई दे रहा भैया
Right, that was the Prime Minister's call with the victorious Indian hockey team. They won the bronze medal. They were defending the bronze medal. And like I said, it was an incredible victory coming from 1 goal down against Spain to win 2-1. But at the outset, I want to present to you these two contrasting pictures. On the one set of images that happened just earlier today, just earlier this evening, when the men's hockey team won the Olympic bronze medal, it was a fitting tribute to a man who has been literally at the vanguard of Indian hockey for the last 2 decades now. He's the goalkeeper. He's the grand old daddy of the Indian hockey team. Srijesh, this was his last match in India colours. Like I said, it was a come-from-behind victory against Spain 2-1. So that's on one side of your screen, on the far right. On the left side of your screen are pictures from the other night. A distraught Vinesh Phogat after being disqualified because she couldn't make weight. She lost, at the very least, an Olympic silver, if not an Olympic gold medal, because she was 100 grams overweight. These are the ups and downs of sport. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. The point is, and this is what we're debating tonight, is it fair to be reading conspiracies into these sporting matters? Is it fair to be seeing biases in sport where none exist, when we should actually be leaving our sportspersons to be doing what they do best, that is to compete, to fight and to win medals for India, keeping them away from the political shenanigans? We'll debate that in just a moment, but first, the story so far today.
If her weight was okay when she fought 3 bouts and won all 3 in one day, how can it go up by 100 grams? If this is not a conspiracy, what is? Modi ji is only doing a consolation tweet. We don't want a consolation tweet from Prime Minister. We want justice from Prime Minister.
बड़ा झटका लगा है पूरे देश को, सभी युवाओं को और सभी को, क्योंकि हमारी एक्सपेक्टेशंस बहुत ज़्यादा थी और मैं समझती हूँ उसमें उच्च स्तरीय जांच होनी चाहिए कि जो डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन हुआ है वो आखिर क्यों हुआ है।
Right, so are athletes in the crossfire when they should be kept away from the political ring and should be competing within the Olympic ring? Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Smith Singh is spokesperson of the Congress Party. Alka Tomar, former wrestler, joining us. Deepa Malik is former para-athlete, Padma Shri and Arjuna Awardee. And also Mr. A.B. Subbaiah is former Indian hockey goalkeeper and coach and also an Arjuna Awardee. Thank you very much for joining us. Sanju Verma, so the contention you heard from Congress leaders, other opposition leaders, they're all saying that this whole thing is a conspiracy. Vinesh Phogat was done in because she had sat in a protest out in Jantar Mantar last year. The Modi government did not listen to her, and this whole thing was a conspiracy to rob her of a medal.
You know, Zaka, I don't claim to be an expert on sports, but I'm certainly a sports enthusiast, like most Indians are. And, I'll try and bring in first the views of some decorated players, be it, somebody like, say, Digvijay Singh Deo. He was, one of the torchbearers at the 2008 Olympics. Then you have Viren Rasquina today, who's put out a very interesting tweet, replete with facts. He's a decorated hockey player, was once upon a time the national hockey team head. Then you have the likes of Saina Nehwal, so on and so forth. First and foremost, let me just read out what Viren Rasquina has said, because I think sports persons understand the nuances of different games far better than you and me do, with no offense to you. Viren Rasquina says, he's put out a tweet in question-answer format, and he says, is there any possibility of sabotage? He says, 0 chance. Could Vinesh and team have done anything more? He gives a lengthy response to that, but says the doctor, nutritionist, coach, CMO, CDM, everyone was with her throughout the night and did everything they could.
Okay.
And then, at the other end of the spectrum, you have people like Saina Nehwal, again, a celebrated badminton champion in every sense of the term, who said that, Vinesh Phogat was not participating in Olympics for the first time and she needs to take onus and responsibility for what happened. Now, I just want to say one thing. Without giving a political color to this, it goes without saying Vinesh Phogat is a champion. She's won 2 world championships, 3 CWG championships, and 8 Asian championships. Be that as it may, let's be very clear. As a bona fide Indian, my heart goes out to her. I feel sad, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm also anguished. But that does not take away from the fact that this entire Congress left cabal which has been saying, अरे सिर्फ 100 ग्राम ही तो ज़्यादा था weight. सरकार ने क्यों नहीं किया कुछ? Ignoramuses like Randeep Singh Surjewala and Derek O'Brien shouting, their lungs off. I want to say one thing. Just this 20 seconds, Aka, and this will put the entire thing in perspective. We all know that the greatest living athlete is Usain Bolt. You know, he's perhaps the only one who's won 100 meters and 200 meters consecutively in 3 Olympics before he called it quits in 2016 after the Rio Olympics, which were his last. The man who took over from him was a man called Marcel Jacobs, who won the 100 meter sprint in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, clocking 9.80 seconds. And guess what? This time in the Paris 2024 Olympics, Marcel Jacobs could not even win a bronze. He clocked 9.85 seconds and he finished 5th. But that's the nature of the beast. And more importantly, guess what? The man who won, just 10 seconds more, the man who won the 100 meter sprint this time at Paris is an American called, Noah Lyles. He clocked 9.784 seconds. And the man who was runner-up, Kishan Thompson, clocked 9.789 seconds. I mean, kya antar hai between 9.784 and 9.789? But that is the difference between a gold, a silver, and getting absolutely nothing. So,
let me go to Smith Singh of the Congress Party. Smith Singh, Vinesh is not the only person who got disqualified because of being overweight. There was an Italian wrestler in the same discipline who got disqualified because she was overweight. As far as the coaching staff, the dietitian, the nutritionist, physio, etc., were all chosen by Vinesh. Vinesh, in fact, competed in the trials both in the 50 kg and in the 53 kg. In the 53 kg, she lost to another national champion, Anshu, and then she competed in the 50, and that's how she went to Paris. Now, everything went by the rule book. Now, to ask for a conspiracy theory, isn't that doing great disservice, if not to anyone else, but to Vinesh herself? I mean, it's undermining her own effort.
I think it's a great disservice to all sports persons, including Vinesh, to talk about so much about sports and what this athlete has said and what that athlete has said, and then tell every sports person you cannot engage with power structures that surround you. We all know the federations are run by politicians. We know these policy decisions are being made by politicians, but we are telling athletes you have no power to engage with what is happening here. Is the message we are giving all athletes who are going to the Olympics or future of India that is preparing to play for India? That no, you cannot talk about politics. We should see things in context. We are talking about a federation against whose president 6 adult athletes had a sexual harassment charge. 1 minor athlete had a sexual harassment charge. The Vinesh and other athletes were on streets, sleeping on streets for 40 days. And then an ad hoc committee says there will be trials even if an individual quota has been won. The quota goes to the country in all sporting events. And in this case, once Sanjay Singh returned as WFI president, they said there will be no trials for the Olympic Games. And whoever has won the quota will go. And again, that trial that you're talking about was only to be among the top 4, which Vinesh made in 53 category and the 50 category also. She went to the Paris Olympic Games not because she won those trials. She went to the Paris Olympic Games as per the policy because she was a quota holder in the 50 category. And when we come to 53, her chance to play the trials for the Olympics against the person who has won the quota was taken away. Now, that is the complete clarity, and that policy was changed. This is the policy change we are talking about. Now, you have to see the athlete's mind in this context.
1 second. What does any of that have to do with what happened in the disqualification? She went through in the 50 qualifiers. She defeated, I believe, the world champion, the defending Olympic gold medalist, the European champion, the Pan American champion. She rightfully had her place in the final. Nobody is disputing any of that. Unfortunately, the rule book says you have to weigh in both on the first morning and the second morning. And unfortunately for her, despite her best efforts, the best efforts of her team, she fell 100 grams overweight. What has any of what you said got to do with the actual disqualification?
See, the things I've said have to do with this because that's the base you put it on, that there were trials and she went, and that was wrong. Now, coming to this specific thing. She had her perfect weight on the first day. She made it to the finals. She was disqualified on the day of the finals. The first thing is that if her weight was 100 grams extra, she went in the last minute to get the weight checked. So the whole country, it's not the Congress, the whole country wanted to know what went behind it. Could anything extra be done? Could her complete hair be cut? All these were questions raised by the whole country. I think the country is going in that mood to asking this question. And I think everybody has a right, even a sports person have a right to ask these questions and check what has happened. Now coming to the weight category issue, it is very clear that she was having, even in 2016 Olympics, to cut weight. She was having this difficulty, and she was trying to get that trials for the Olympics in 53 category. That was not given to her. It is what now we are talking about.
So these are two separate matters. So let's not confuse. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Mr. Subbaiah has been sort of vigorously nodding his head. So Mr. Subbaiah, please respond to both of this. One on the, did she compete in the category that she wanted to, or was she unfairly denied that? And more importantly, I think the most pressing thing is there anything that could have been done differently by her or her team to actually have qualified for the final and not be disqualified for being 100 grams above the weigh in?
See, first of all, we had a lot of discussion from yesterday with all of us top sports persons regarding this issue. Everybody, first thing, the Congress or any opposition party who are saying this is a conspiracy, they should go and read the rules book about this all age and weight category related sports like boxing, wrestling, and judo. See, it is nothing in anybody's hand. If they're saying anybody mixed anything or anything they have done in our food, it is not possible. They're all in the Olympic village where each and everything is checked and left it. And when she has surrounded by their own support staff, there is no chance for all this. I think earlier, all these people, they were all behind our armed forces. Please spare the sports person. Actually, I am very pity with Vinesh Phogat, because last 2 years they used her as a tool for all this, and she has to undergo many things. What we are discussing today is development of the sports politics into the sport.
Okay.
At this moment, think big and just say this is the rules and regulation is set by the world body which everybody follows. And Vinesh is not the first instance where they are disqualified due to the weight.
Yeah.
There is a many instance. So they should understand this, and they should definitely go through their regulations, what is there, read before they make it as a conspiracy.
So let me ask Deepa Malik, as somebody who has competed at the very highest level of the Paralympics, this whole thing about seeing conspiracies where perhaps none exist, more than that, about, dragging in sportspersons for political point scoring. And sport has always been, politicized in this country, whether it is cricket or other Olympic sports. I mean, I can go on a list of, how many instances there have been where politicians have used sport. I mean, to start with, most sporting bodies are controlled by politicians. Forget about anything else. But to use them and use what I would call a national tragedy like what has happened with Vinesh to score political points, should we not be putting our sports and sportspersons away from this kind of point scoring?
What I want to say here is when an athlete goes out to play, the athlete carries only the tricolor and not the flag of any particular party or emblem of a party. Athlete is always an athlete for the country, playing for the country. So it's a humble request to everybody, because I'm an athlete and I say that please do not get politics into anything. And now talking about Vinesh, we all feel for her. Our hearts have shattered. Her tears are our tears. And today I think we should all focus on her mental well-being on her return. What has happened are part of the rules and regulations, and this is not the first time something like this has happened. If we take the case of Shiva Keshwan, he has been a 6-time winter Olympian from India. And if you see his social media handles, it says 100th of a second. Now, he missed his medal by 100th of a second. I can speak about Vinod. He won the medal at the Paralympics, but the medal was taken away after the declaration, after everybody tweeted for him, because there was a medical protest. And when his muscle groups, which when he began training were found weak, but by the time he prepared for the Paralympics and he, the muscles improved. and his medal was taken away. So there are many instances where by virtue of the rules of the particular game, athletes have to come to such fate for which one should be prepared and take it gracefully in their stride. And we as Indians should applaud her hard work, what she has accomplished there by the 3 consecutive wins. It has won all our hearts, but her loss has been a great loss, but doesn't mean that there was a conspiracy or any such kind of a thing. I think let us not lower her struggle or her success by adding these derogatory aspects to it. Just celebrate her journey and be there to welcome her and be her support.
So, Sanju Verma, there are 2 points of attack from the opposition on the government, the WFI. One is, of course, the fact that Vinesh and other wrestlers were sitting out on protest. The WFI did not listen to them. The government did not listen to them. And they even went to the extent of some of them drowning their medals and returning their awards and so on and so forth. So that's one. They're saying that they were anyway, the WFI and the government were daggers drawn with these athletes. That's number one. The second part is that, okay, fine, she was over 100 grams after having qualified for the final. Isn't there anything that the WFI or the IOA can do to ensure that she at least gets the silver? Coming back empty-handed, that is, I think, what has broken everyone's hearts.
Zaka, I will again quote from what Viren Raskvina says. He asked a question, could she have at least got the silver medal? To which the limited response, he says, is this, saying that, you're suffering injury or you're unfit and then claiming a silver medal is just not possible because you have to be certified unfit by the tournament director. Point number one. Point number two, even if you're certified unfit, saying that, XYZ, Vinesh Phogat in this case has an injury, you have to still mandatorily go in for the weighing. And if during the weighing you don't make the cut, then despite the injury, despite being supposedly unfit, you cannot get that coveted silver medal. So in Vinesh Phogat's case, while, we will get to know in a couple of hours, the entire story, but the fact of the matter is she did not make that second weight cut, and even assuming she had said that she's unfit or she suffers an injury, she would still not have qualified from that point of view for the silver medal. But my final point is this. I'm reading out this is a very interesting article. I'll just read out 4 lines by the Tribune. And Tribune is anti-Modi, we all know that, but be that as it may. The journalist here says that as per the United World Wrestling UWW rules, there is Article 7 which clearly states each contestant should be taking part at his or her own free will in only one qualifying category and will be responsible himself or herself and will be allowed to compete in only that particular category. But in the case of Vinesh Phogat, she was actually allowed to compete in both the 50 kg qualifiers and the 53 kg qualifiers, which means, Zaka, let your audience know, rather than being vindictive, the Modi government actually gave a whole long rope to Vinesh Phogat कि मैडम आप 50 kg या 53 kg ही नहीं, आप दोनों कैटेगरीज के क्वालिफाइंग राउंड्स में compete कीजिए और फिर आपको जहां सुविधा लगे, within the broader framework, you go and compete in the Olympics.
So
government
Smith Singh,
will give you such a long road?
Yeah, that is the moot point, that the ad hoc committee made an exception, went against what was conventional norm, that one wrestler is only allowed to compete in one category. They allowed Vinesh to compete both in the 50 kg and in the 53 kg. Because she had insisted and she was worried that the Wrestling Federation of India's commitment was wavering on holding a selection trial. So they made an exception, allowed her to compete in both. In one of it, she won, which is the 50 kg, and the other she lost. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so 3 points. First of all, directly coming on what you just said, her wavering idea that the trials might not be held for Olympics came out, right? There was no trials for the Olympic to going to the Olympic Games. That trials were only to come in the top 4, which she came in both categories. She went to the Olympic Games because she won an individual quota in 50 kg category, not because of winning that trial. That is very clear in same article. Number two, this idea that all the panelists are talking about, the sports person should be kept away from sports, away from politics. Everyone here is talking about politicians engaging in sports policy, politicians engaging in federations, politicians making rules for sports persons, and now we are telling that sports persons cannot engage and ask questions. What is so wrong with this? If athletes wants to ask questions of how policy is made, who's drafting it, who's doing all this, I think they also have a right to do this. Now, coming to the last point, see, there is an athlete of Kenya, Faith Kipchoge. She was disqualified from a silver medal. The whole Kenyan federation, everyone came on the ground. They protested, and her silver medal was reinstated. In our case, Vinesh went there in the last minute, got the weight checked. The time was over after that. She had a half an hour, but she went in the last minute. We don't know. We all want clarity on why it was the last minute. But still, in next 15-20 minutes, the IOA said now she's disqualified, and the press statement came out. Instead of fighting there, protesting there, asking for the time, that is the second thing the country is worried about. Why was this done? Now we have to see all this in the history of the context of her relation with the federation.
Mr. Smith Singh, what could the IOA have done? They already made a petition. They already made a case for Vinesh. What else could they have done?
They made a petition after they announced a disqualification, unlike Kenya, which protested there asking that the Kenyan athlete stepped into the line of another athlete. So their protest was, yes, she stepped in, but the other athlete is not medal winning, so allow our athlete to win the silver medal. And first she was disqualified, then it was taken back. If you protest there in that moment and say, okay, give us this time, that is the moment of the fight.
Okay.
After disqualification has been done.
Yeah, 1 second, Sanju. Let the athletes respond to this. Mr. Subbaiah, was not an enough case made to defend Vinesh's case, to try and at least ensure that she gets the silver medal? The contention that the opposition spokesperson is making is that the IOA did not even put up a fight. Before they moved the petition, they put out the statement that she's been disqualified because she was overweight by 100 grams.
Zaka, one I'll tell about our spokesperson was saying that we never said the politician should not be in sports. We are not saying that, but using a sports person as a tool should not be done. Okay. And moreover, I'm saying SOP is clear. Rules, regulation is given to each and every participating country. Each and every athlete will know what is the right, what is the wrong, how much weight you can possess, not even a 10 grams, leave about the 100 grams in this. Because there is a lot of advantage. Nobody can take advantage over the opponents, like in the age. So what I feel that it's a sheer bad luck of hers that she could not come back within 100 this thing. That's what clearly rule says, that she will be disqualified. If this is the finals or whatever, she will be the last among all the medalists, because if she gets disqualified. This is the rules is set, and it is not set during the Olympics. It is there for any competition. World Organization has already set. Same thing is in hockey. Many rules which we know, everything is set, and it is forwarded to all the countries, and every coach, support staff, everybody knows about this.
Yeah, what are you saying, Mr. Singh? Very quickly.
My quick answer to this. Everyone on the panel here is using sports as a tool for today's discussion. Let's stop accusing one person. I believe athletes have a right to talk about politics if politics is deciding their lives.
That's a different orientation. Let me get Deepa Malik, please. Deepa Malik, you know, the irony of this is, for whatever reason, she was not able to compete in 53, and assuming that that's the category that she wanted to compete in or represent India in the Olympics, the person who was sent there under the quota system, then this is the ultimate irony. Antim Pangal lost in her first round 10-0, which is fair enough. It happens in sport. But what was worse was she and her entire contingent, her support staff, had to be sent back because her sister tried to sneak into the Olympic Village using her ID card. And this is, just weeks after Paris itself. There was that whole terror threat, the railway attack, and all of that happened. You can imagine the level of security. Now, people are turning around and saying, was this the best person to represent India in that category?
I think too many things are happening together. Talking about politics in sports, it is not about politicians not engaging themselves, because at the end of the day, they are the rulers, they are the chosen representatives of the people, by the people, for the people, and for formulation of policies. So their engagement to better the sport is definitely required. But the term politics is politicizing sports. I think that is something which should not happen. Now coming to, Olympic squad is being led by experts. The chef de mission himself is a 4-time Olympian.
Yeah.
PT Usha ji herself is a very experienced athlete who has given her entire life to creating new sports persons and creating the ecosystem of sports aiming towards Olympics. So this is a very qualified set of people who have gone there, who are the custodians of all the athletes. There are defined rules. Experts have gone there. So let's not debate over something which is not in control of anybody else other than the rules and regulations which are very clearly defined of a particular sport at the highest level of sporting event.
All right. I'm going to leave it at that. Sanju Verma, last 10 seconds. I really have to wrap up and take a break.
Thank you.
Yeah, 10
Zaka,
seconds.
my last point is only this. Please. My last point is only this. The BJP has never politicized. But look at the Congress. The moment Saina Nehwal joined the BJP, they started trolling her. The moment PT Usha was made a Rajya Sabha member by the BJP, PT Usha's credibility was blown to smithereens by the Congress ecosystem. The moment Anju Bobby George hailed Narendra Modi for encouraging our sports fraternity, Anju Bobby George's credibility was undermined by the Congress cabal. This is the same Congress cabal which used to speak about
All right, 5 seconds, Smith Singh. I really have to wrap up. Commercial break next. 5 seconds.
What IT
5
cell
seconds.
has done to Vinesh, Bajrang Punia and Sakshi Malik on the streets of Delhi, we all know. What BJP did to them, we all know.
Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Time out. That's a wrap. Like I said, I'm a firm believer that ultimately we should keep politics away from the sporting arena, because the sports persons are there to fight, to compete, and hopefully to win medals for the country. Everybody else should keep their, vested interests or their narrow differences away from the sporting arena. We'll take a quick break here on the program. When we come back on the other side, there are violent anti-immigration protests continuing right across the United Kingdom, and now there are counter-protests that have happened as well. All of these are along communal battle lines that are widening across cities in the middle of England and in the northern part of England. These violent agitations come after a knife attack which happened at a children's dance class in Southport. 3 young kids died in that. This has emerged as a big test for the new Labour government under Keir Starmer. We'll do a deep dive on the situation. We'll also get a ground report from my colleague Sanjay Suri right after this quick break.
भाई मैंने भी इस बार SIP करके म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसे डाले, तो मुझे ये जानना था कि KYC का चक्कर क्या है।
म्यूचुअल फंड सही है .com या अपने म्यूचुअल फंड की वेबसाइट पे जाओ, पैन नंबर डालो और सिर्फ इतना देखो कि तुम्हारा KYC स्टेटस रजिस्टर्ड है या वैलिडेटेड।
रजिस्टर्ड हो तो
आधार और पैन कार्ड के साथ अपना KYC वैलिडेट करो, जरूरी है और ज्यादा वक्त भी नहीं लगता।
और वैलिडेटेड हो तो
सही है।
सही है माई भाई, अब तक इन्वेस्ट किया ना हो तो
KYC कर लो और मैदान में उतरो।
सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
And our message is to say that everyone together, look around. There's no trouble. Everyone's getting on. Look at the different complexions of people. The whole of different religions and races. Everyone hugging each other, shaking each other's hands, getting given water. Do you know what I mean? And this is what this area is about. Other areas, we can't really speak for them, we can't go, but we'll be prepared to help and stop it and not allow these things to happen. What we've done is we've made a stand, no violence, all peace, made the stand to say this is what our area is about. If you come here, this is what you need to expect, and we'll gladly just march it out of the area and put a stop to this.
I mean, you've got to take a stand, otherwise they're going to get away with it. You've got to show that it's wrong. That's it at the end of the day. It is wrong, so you've got to say it.
We don't want an exclusive society where certain people are always going to be marginalised, where certain people are always going to be feeling a threat if they go into town or into another area where their people don't exist. That's all. You know, everybody wants to live in peace. That's the basic message. Everybody wants to live in peace, and we can do that. We've done it for years in certain areas. Not until the politicians stayed it up has it ever been like this.
We want to unite. We want to send a clear message that these are our streets. We've worked hard to create unity, and we have a community. We're not going to let fascists, we're not going to let racists and the far right march here. Yeah, that's basically why I'm here. And there's fear. They've spread a lot of fear, and I was fearful. But I thought, no, it's very important to be here and meet them. If they want to talk, let's talk.
Well, my parents' generation went through great sacrifices to fight against fascism from Germany. And it started off with small groups on the streets attacking immigrants, or in those days Jews. Now the same types of people are on the streets in this country. It's absolutely disgraceful, and I'm standing here against that.
I do solemnly, sincerely, truly declare and affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law.
Thank you. When the Labour Party's Sir Keir Starmer was elected as Prime Minister of Britain last month, he planned to tackle some of the long-term issues that have been plaguing his country. His first priorities included reviving a stagnant economy and repairing the struggling National Health Service. Now he faces a more immediate and unexpected problem, one that is proving to be his government's first major domestic test. England and Northern Ireland have been rocked by a week of anti-immigrant riots that have gripped more than a dozen cities. The riots came in the wake of a knife attack on a children's dance class in the town of Southport, close to Liverpool, which left 3 young girls dead. Subsequently, there were large-scale violence across Middle and Northern England, much of which initially was driven by misinformation about the identity of the attacker. It was initially claimed that the attacker was a Muslim immigrant. That turned out to be false. But that made little difference as the misinformation went viral online, both on private messaging channels as well as social media platforms like X. The attacker was identified as Axel Rudakabana. He was born and raised in Britain, and according to the BBC, his parents were from Rwanda. But because of these large-scale and sudden riots, Starmer and his government suddenly find themselves fighting a two-pronged battle. On the one hand, there is the online battle, and on the other, in the streets where rioters have rampaged in more than 15 towns and cities, injuring dozens of police officers, looting businesses, targeting mosques, and setting fire outside a hotel which had asylum seekers. So far, Keir Starmer has taken a law and order first approach. After all, he's been a chief prosecutor before he became Prime Minister. He has vowed to crack down on perpetrators and bring them swiftly to justice. He's also promised to put more police out on the streets and provide additional security personnel to Muslim communities and to mosques. And so far, he has mostly avoided attacks from his political opponents. In fact, his opponents have moved to unite in opposition to condemn the violence. But Starmer does face a challenge in dealing with the disorder which has badly shaken communities, partly because he's inherited an overwhelmed criminal justice system. The government has said it would fast-track hearings for those who are charged in connection with the riots, but the prison system has been operating at full capacity even before the violence began. The situation was so bad that the new government had already introduced emergency early release measures for those who are non-violent offenders. People in the UK have got reduced trust in policing nationally, along with deep cuts to community policing which happened during the Conservative Party's rule. All of this has also made it harder for police officers to deal with public disorder. And the courts, which were already overwhelmed by their caseloads with a serious backlog at all levels of the court, are now struggling to address the tens who've been arrested and subject them to the legal process. It is unclear whether the limit on prison spaces will be exceeded before the government is finished cracking down on the rioters. And if that were to happen, whether or not officials will be forced to let go of some people quickly and before their time ends. The government has made it quite clear that their ambitions are there to tackle some of these longer-term problems, but it's going to take time, and it makes this really difficult to deal with in the immediate term.
If you target people because of the colour of their skin or their faith, then that is far right, and I'm prepared to say so. But it doesn't matter what apparent motivation there is.
Starmer has called this far-right thuggery and has vowed a swift crackdown. Nearly 400 people have been arrested so far, and the police say they will track down others who they know were involved in the riots and fomenting hate online and arrest them immediately.
People in this country have a right to be safe, and yet we've seen Muslim communities targeted, attacks on mosques, other minority communities singled out, Nazi salutes in the street, attacks on the police, wanton violence alongside racist rhetoric. So no, I won't shy away from calling it what it is, far-right thuggery.
Speaking after an emergency meeting earlier this week with government ministers, police representatives, civil servants, and the intelligence services, Starmer announced a plan for a standing army of specialized police officers whose only job will be to deal with disorder. He said, and I quote, "This is not a protest, this is pure violence, and we will not tolerate attacks on our mosques or on our Muslim communities." He went on to say that the full force of the law will be visited on those who've been identified as having taken part in these activities. Now, mainstream politicians, even those who believe that illegal immigration is a major problem in the UK, so far have remained united in their condemnation of the violence. Members of the previous Conservative government have voiced unqualified support to the government. Rishi Sunak, the former Prime Minister and the current leader of the Conservatives, who pushed for a much criticised plan to ship asylum seekers to Rwanda, called the latest round of violence criminal behavior which has no place in British society. Preeti Patel, a former Conservative Home Secretary who introduced some of the country's most stringent laws on asylum seekers, said in a letter to the current Home Secretary that this is a moment for national reflection and solidarity, to pull back from the wave of violence and to call it out for what it is, and for Parliament to speak with one voice in condemnation. Even tabloid newspapers that typically take aim at the Labour government have focused more on the mayhem and less on criticising Starmer's government. Some Conservatives, though, have urged Mr. Starmer to recall Parliament from its summer recess so that lawmakers can have more of a say in how to respond. James Cleverly, a Conservative lawmaker and a former Home Secretary, told British news outlets that the government was slow off the mark in dealing with these riots.
I mean, we haven't organised this very well, have we?
But for the most part, any criticism has been indirect or muted, save for a few detractors like Nigel Farage, the leader of the populist right-wing party Reform UK. Last week, Farage put out a video questioning the official information about the attacker, which he said gave air to some conspiracy theories. On Monday, earlier this week, he did condemn the violence, but then he criticized what he said was Starmer's faltering attempts to address the violence.
At no point in the last week or in the previous 30 years have I ever encouraged the use of violence. Have I ever encouraged the use of anti-democratic means.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer has also called out online companies directly after false information about the identity of the 17-year-old suspect in the attack, which spread initially rapidly on many of these social media platforms. These rumors refuse to die down no matter how many times the police and government officials push back against these claims. Immediately after the attack, false claims began circulating about the perpetrator, including that he was an asylum seeker from Syria. In fact, the suspect was born in Cardiff, he'd lived in Britain all his life, and according to both the BBC and the Times of London, his parents are from Rwanda. The misinformation was amplified by far-right agitators who have large online followings, and many of them use messaging apps like Telegram or X to call people to protest against this. Clashes followed in several towns across the UK, leading to more than 50 police officers being injured in Southport and over 100 arrests in and around London. There was even a viral spat between the British Prime Minister and the owner of X, billionaire Elon Musk. Starmer accused Musk of adding fuel to the fire by giving more credence to these conspiracy theories. Musk was defiant and he refused to take down his posts. Officials fear more violence in the days ahead. The viral falsehoods were so prevalent that a judge took the unusual step of lifting restrictions and named who the underage suspect was. He was identified as Axel Rudukubana. Policing the internet is a legally murky terrain for most democracies because you have individual rights and free speech protections which have to be balanced against a desire to block harmful content. Last year, Britain adopted a law called the Online Safety Act, which requires social media companies to introduce new protections for child safety, while at the same time also forcing companies to prevent and rapidly remove any illegal content which is like terrorism propaganda or revenge pornography. But the law is less clear about how companies must treat misinformation or incendiary and xenophobic language. Instead, the law gives the British agency Ofcom, which oversees television and other traditional media formats, more authority to regulate online platforms. So far, though, the agency has not taken much action to tackle this issue. In the longer term, analysts say that the government will have its task cut out, not just with dealing with the law and order, but also how to promote community cohesion in a society that feels increasingly divided. Britain has long prided itself in multiculturalism, but that has not come to pass, certainly not the way that most Britons have expected it to. For the last 25 years, under successive governments, there have been discussions about having a proper strategy for promoting cohesion and integration in Britain. But for a long time, the focus was on combating Muslim extremism and radicalization, particularly in the wake of terror attacks in the noughties that happened in both Britain as well as in the United States. But that does not take away from some British people's real frustrations regarding immigration. It is important to distinguish between what some British people feel as their vocal frustration around immigration and of course the violence that the rioters indulged in and the disrepute that they brought to their communities. Painting both the rioters and the people that they claim to speak for with the same brush would be a criminal mistake.
Pinner Road here in Harrow in London, one of the many areas across Britain listed by the far right as a target for a demonstration on Wednesday evening. They've been beaten to it by a very large number of people opposed to the far right who've been confronting far right members just about everywhere.
Community meeting in the next few weeks, in the next month, to talk about the rising threat of fascism and the far right and the Islamophobic attacks. So please come along and join in.
I'm a primary school teacher and I teach in my class about diversity and equality, and I think if I can't practice what I preach by coming here and saying that I don't stand with the far right in our country, then it doesn't really, I can't stand in the classroom and preach about diversity.
It's just frightening, the rise of the right wing in this country, and I'm not letting our streets be taken over by right wing thugs. It's not on.
I come from a place of privilege and I stand up for all my friends that are minorities that can't do things like this because they don't feel safe.
There we go. Yeah. Refugees are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here.
This counter-demonstration against the far right became in part a demonstration in support of Palestine with a very substantial Muslim presence. A fellow demonstrator, falsely suspected of being a far right supporter, had to be escorted away.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
A number of Muslim youngsters had come clearly prepared to take on any aggression from far-right members. Tensions over a possible clash had built up all day. Consider what just the threat of violence has done here in Harrow. Just about everything shut down, shutters down across all the shops, and this normally is a thriving, buzzing area of Harrow. Lots of shops here, lots of offices, and everything closed. Just the occasional straggler passing by. It's looking like a ghost town, this part of Harrow. Most people are just giving this whole area a miss. This is now happening in Harrow, which is a multicultural area to the extent it's been almost the poster boy of multiculturalism, not just in London but across Britain. It's home to a variety of people and it's been a melting pot really that has worked. No one could have imagined scenes like this in Harrow. No one could have imagined this kind of shutdown forced by fears of racist violence.
There's a threat of the mob breaking in, so that's why all of them have closed down. Sure, they all closed.
This should have been a store open and selling chicken busily.
It's a chicken fast food chicken shop, yes. Normally we stay open till 11, but just today, because of the threat, we have to close early. Yeah, bad for the business, but what can we do? So let's hope for the best.
I think it's a crazy time. There's all of this stuff going on. I think this is an opportunity for everyone to sort of come together, you know. North Harrow to show unity, show that we're all here for the same reason, and it's a case where hopefully nothing will kick off. Hopefully nothing will happen. So far, so good.
And do you think, a lot of people of different kinds live together here in Harrow. You think that should continue or should that change?
I don't think it should change. I think it's completely fine.
What makes Harrow is the fact that it's multicultural. And the day that changes, then Harrow isn't Harrow anymore.
This group has prevailed today, as they have at some places, but that's not to say that the far right is done yet.
Presented by
Here to show that, you know, we were totally opposed to fascism then and we're totally opposed to fascism now.
Nazi MPs elected! A situation that we cannot...
you know what, Walthamstow is telling them that they are not welcome here and this is not happening in our name and they can just go and cause mayhem somewhere else. But yeah, it's been a really shocking and scary, well, it's not shocking, it feels like, you know, this has been in the making for years. This has been whipped up and here we are now. So, but yeah, not in Walthamstow, thankfully.
We truly, as you can see today, we really, truly do come together. We did it before, we'll do it again, and I'm just worried about the places where this is not happening, where the people aren't coming out to stop them. I'm really, truly worried about those other communities. And feeling really worried about everybody, really worried about people's safety, my friends' children's safety. I've got a lot of people of colour in my network. I'm worried about the Muslim people, the people of all faiths that are suffering. Just don't need them, we don't want them. It's time to move on from this. I can't believe it's happening again. I was around in Thatcher years. I can't believe we used to get up in the anti-Nazi marches and here we are again.
Show me what the community looks like! Show me what the community looks like! This is what the community looks like! This is what the community looks like!
You alright? You good, dude?
Normally, the people who are coming here, and they just said they are coming here to create the hatred and division in the community, so that people came to show their support and love to, that we all are one. So Newcastle is known for love. People are very lovely all the time. We never had this sort of issue. So that's why we all are here to show our solidarity with each other here. Yes, I was scared, but when I saw these guys, everybody here, I'm really happy and overwhelmed, and not only me, entire community.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We haven't talked about West Asia in a while. There was just too much happening in Bangladesh, but the threat of escalation from Iran is very much alive there. Flights are being diverted, more American military assets are being deployed in the region, and some telling statements are being made. Iran's attack on Israel seems imminent. The story here is what's taking them so long and whether their proxies are still aligned.